even now in my business, like I'm driven by helping people in situations that I deem like unfair, being creative with what I do. So they've all been really random what I've wanted to do, but they've all kind of come down to I want to make a difference and I want to be creative. Um,
You know what the job title is for that? Becky, welcome to Adventures, the podcast that takes you on an exhilarating journey through the lives of business owners, entrepreneurs. Business owner, entrepreneur, and social media guru, welcome to Adventures.
oh, social media guru. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, good. Splendid, yes. So we've known each other, what, about 6 months, do you reckon?
Yeah, probably about that. Summer last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, through the old medium, my favourite medium, in fact, of Instagram. Should have met in person, but didn't.
Yeah, it's my favourite as well, Instagram. It is I think it's the best of all the platforms. But yeah, should have met in person, but unfortunately didn't. We was going to go to Funpreneur, or I was going to go to Funpreneurs, you did.
Yeah.
But I couldn't go in the end.
Yeah, see, could have been holding hands on a roller coaster with you, but instead I had Suze, former
Well,
guest on the show. Can't remember what episode she was now.
she's an all right consolation prize, is Suze. So
So we won't tell her she said that. And I'm sure after her episode, she doesn't listen to this anymore.
no, she is absolutely wonderful. I adore her. You probably got the better version of both of us by putting hands with her.
All right, Becky, tell us what you do.
So, my name is Becky, as you said. My business is Be Heard Socials. So, I am a social media marketer, and I specialise in content strategy and organic growth on social media. As I just said, my main platform, my main love is Instagram. I kind of work across all of them, but Instagram is my favourite for many, many reasons. And yeah, I help small businesses owned by women simplify their social media and take the stress away and be able to market their business and grow their business using social media without the stress and without the overwhelm. I do that through various different one-to-one services, my membership, the Boss Your Socials Club, and I also have my own podcast, Show Up and Be Heard, which I launched last year and absolutely love. So yeah, my big thing is and I might be shifting slightly, actually. I was just asking you when this episode was coming out because some of what I do might be shifting. I don't want to say too much at the moment because I don't even know myself exactly yet what that's going to be. But my big passion is basically about helping women simplify their business and their life and define success on their own terms and just show them that we don't have to do the things the way that they should be done. So that's what I'm all about. That's what I'm really passionate about. And at the moment, I do that through helping people with their social media.
I love that. And lots to unpack there. Instagram, then. What makes it your favourite platform?
So the main thing I think for me with Instagram is I think out of all of the platforms, it's as annoying as it can be that they release all these new features and they change all the time and whatever. I think Instagram allows you to best manage your boundaries on social media. So I have a boss framework, which is how to approach creating content on social media and how to approach marketing your business. And the B in boss stands for boundaries, because I think that's front and center of being successful in anything actually, but on social media. And Instagram, I think, just has the most things that allow you to really hold strong boundaries. Whereas like I really want to like LinkedIn because I know it would be good for my business, but I hate it. And I think it's just because either I haven't found them, but it just doesn't have the same things that Instagram has to be able to, like I said, put boundaries in place and maintain those boundaries. But I also really love Instagram because it's very visual and I'm a very visual person. Like I love the stories feature on Instagram. If anybody follows me, and I know you've seen a few of my stories, it's like organised professional chaos. But you really get to show like in so many different ways who you are. And I think that's massive as a business owner. Like it's a big part of what we do, isn't it? Being able to show who we are. And I love that Instagram kind of allows you, I refer to it as sort of like the treating your business as a real life shop, and like your feed and your posts and all that kind of stuff is like your shop window, and then the stories are kind of the inside the shop experience. And I think it really allows you to get that across. And like I said, some people will probably hate my stories or think I'm an absolute clown, but I love them because I think it really helps showcase your personality as well. So yeah, there's loads of reasons I really like Instagram. One of them is not how often it changes, because it does change a lot. But boundaries and how it helps you showcase genuinely who you are two of my biggest, I think.
Yeah, I love it, but it is. I get the feeling it is the hardest of the platforms. It's like if you were going to pick like a level, like you're like, it's like easy to extra hard. Instagram is extra hard, right?
I think well, I don't know. This is what I'm all about, right? So, like, it can be if you're trying to do everything, but I'm all about simplifying it. And a lot of my advice, so in a good way and a annoying way, if I'm working with someone, either one on one or one of my members, if they ask me a question about Instagram, for example, I ask about 10 questions back before I answer it, because I think another thing I'm really passionate about is kind of cutting through the noise and the BS, of which there's a lot out there, of how to show up on Instagram. And actually, it can be really hard, or you can simplify it. And I'm quite big on trying to never say the word, this is what you should do, because I don't think there's any way that you should do something. And I think it's not even just about your business, like it's about your life as well. So, me telling someone what they should do on Instagram who have got two small children at home with them 24/7 is going to be very different to somebody who has children in school or who doesn't have children or whatever. So I think you can make it really hard, but I think you can also simplify it if you let go of some of that pressure. And it's a bit like, someone came to me the other week and was asking about what did I think was the best way to approach reels and what reels should they be creating. And some of the questions I asked back was like, how regularly are you posting, like not normal posts, but like static posts? And they weren't really. And I asked all these, and what are you doing here and what are you doing there? How confident are you on video? And basically I went back to them, I was like, I don't think you should start with reels, because you're going to do it, hate it, and actually you can sort of build up to that. So I'm not going to pretend it's not hard, because it is, but I don't think it has to be as hard as we make it. And I think sometimes a lot of that's on us rather than Instagram. And I think it's the pressure we put on ourselves to do the things we think we should be doing, rather than just doing, well, what's in our capacity or what works for us or what we really enjoy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it is hard to battle to get the numbers is the hardest thing is what I was kind of alluding to, as it were. It's I can post a video on TikTok and it can get tens of thousands of views, but you post the same one on Instagram and you get like 60 if you're lucky. And you put it on Facebook and you get a decent number, and even LinkedIn, you get hundreds, but that you still get 60 on Instagram, and you're just like, what?
Yeah, and again, I get that, but I have, like, I'm like queen of the soapbox because I have many soapbox issues, but also I think we can get hung up on the numbers as well. So, for example, like it could be shown to 60 people on Instagram and say 1,000 on TikTok or whatever. But what if 59 of those people on Instagram are your ideal audience, and a couple of them come to you and, I don't know, like sign up to your email list or whatever, but out of those 1,000 you don't know who they are or what they did, no one actually went on to do anything. So I think there's a bit of that. And I also think there's ways of, and again, I'm not pretending, because it is like, and it can be soul destroying on Instagram, but I think there's a lot that we don't see. Like, I've literally been on my stories this morning talking about how somebody got in contact with me to tell me that it was from listening to my podcast, actually, so it wasn't about Instagram, but it had got them like £5,000 worth of work, because two people that had listened then went on and got in touch with them. But if I went back to that episode, I say only, like sort of my own advice, but I don't know, about 50 people listened to that episode, whereas 500 could have listened to it, but if they weren't the right people. So do you know, like, there's bits of that as well. And I also think there's ways, well, I know there's ways with Instagram, because it's one of the things I teach to, is what you do on Instagram, I think. So a lot of the people, like, and you're not one of these people, to be fair, because I know you do lots of engagement on there, but proactive engagement on there is really important. So I think it's knowing the way the platforms work and then making your strategy align to that. So there's ways to get more reach on Instagram. But you've got to you've got to know what that is, if that makes sense, which I won't preach about now. So yeah, like I said, I'm not pretending that it's like not hard and it's not infuriating when you can't get all those views. But another thing I'm quite big on is maybe stop focusing on the numbers, for example, and start looking at, other things, and tracking different engagements. And as long as for me, what I track on Instagram is like I track all those things like reach and engagement and like best performing reels and all that kind of stuff. But for me, as long as the numbers are going the right way, and I'm not plummeting with engagement, then I'm happy with that. And actually, if I am plummeting with engagement, as long as I can look at it and go, oh yeah, my engagement or my reach or whatever fell off a cliff. Oh, well, that's because I took the whole of August off because I take the summer holidays off. So of course it fell off a cliff. So yeah, I think there's a lot of mindset involved in it as well. Not just with Instagram, I think across all the social media platforms. There's also a lot of mindset stuff in it to, like move away from the numbers. But I am going to caveat that with saying, I am also the person that puts out a reel, gets like, I don't know, 50 odd views and goes, oh, for God's sake, none of this is worth it. But so I almost have to like give myself my own pep talk. So yeah, it's definitely hard. Reach is definitely hard. There's so many people on the platform now, but there are things that you can do to increase that, that don't have to be overly complicated. And I do think lots of it is about mindset and remembering that, like, in fact, I'm going to have a podcast episode coming out soon where I'm talking like, the goal should never be to go viral. Like if you do amazing, but actually as a business owner, that's not a very helpful goal and what you should be tracking instead. So yeah, I'm not being, like paid by Instagram to be like, no, it's actually wonderful.
Old Adam's on the phone, like, yeah, tell him this, tell him that. You got like an earpiece in there under your hair, and Adam Missouri's there going, no, say this to him, say that to him.
Yeah, that's why I put my hair down today, so you can't see my.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to pretend any of that because it can be infuriating. But I also think, and it can, like I said, I'm big on boundaries, and one of the things I teach on boundaries is how to curate the space so that it doesn't trigger. Because like we're human beings as well, it can trigger all kinds of us in terms of comparison, like self-worth, all that kind of stuff. But I think if you can get the right systems and, like I said, strategy in place, you can approach it from a much more positive space, and then that's quite game changing for the results you get from it.
Yeah, you want to build a foundation too, don't you? If overnight you shot to fame by going viral, then you'd be like, what do I do now?
I honestly think that would be my worst nightmare. I mean, I'd love it in the moment. I'd love it. But yeah, I honestly think that'd be my worst nightmare. But I think not just on Instagram or even on social media, but as business owners in general, we have to remember that there's so much of our impact that we just can't track. So like last year, I had someone get in touch with me. It was my first ever paid speaking experience. Was it last year or the year before? Year before it might have been. First ever, like basically went to an event and I was actually paid for it, which was incredible. They'd got in touch with me and basically sent me a DM on Instagram. I'd never spoken to them before. And they were like, I want to get in touch with you because I love what you speak about. I love your energy. I love your vibe. They'd been following me for nearly 3 years and I'd never spoken to them before or whatever. But and I could have easily thought, oh, well, that person doesn't engage with anything I do. And then suddenly they approached me to speak at an event. So I think as well, we do have to remember, and I mean, obviously, it's a real long game, isn't it? I'm not saying do it for 3 years because then you might get something. But actually, we are having so much more impact than we can actually track.
Yeah, I think you kind of have the blinders on as well, don't you? Especially like the podcast, for example, where you can't really see who's watching, who's listening.
Yeah.
Especially if it's on YouTube and you've got subscribers. Some of them are anonymous, some of them are not. You can see a few, but I go to breakfast with a certain group on it's like a rebel group on a first Friday of the month. That's it. And one of the ladies that joins us, she was stood behind me in the queue when we were ordering last time, and she said, "Oh, I love your podcast. It's so funny." And I was like, I didn't even know you listened to it or watched it. I didn't even know you knew about it because we're not even connected directly on any of the platforms. Hadn't spoken to her about it at all. And she's like, oh, yeah, it's brilliant. And I was like, how did you watch it? Where did you find out? Tell me all the details. And But you're completely right. We don't know who's watching, we don't know who's looking at us, we don't know who's following us. And when you get to a certain number of followers on Instagram, say for example, you used to get like a notification like such and such a person followed you, and then when you start getting into more followers, it stops with that, doesn't it? It's like all of a sudden you've got 5 new followers, but it told you got one. And so you don't know who's following, you lose track of them all, and you're like, oh, who could be watching? Who knows? But your ideal client is in there somewhere. Keep
Yeah,
going.
definitely, definitely. And you're right on the podcast because, like I said, and I'm not just making this up. I've got a screenshot that I can show you from the message this morning.
Yeah, prove it,
Um,
prove it.
yeah, but the person that I'd interviewed on my podcast got in contact and said, I just wanted to say, by the way, after the interview, like 2 people got in contact. It's led to 5 grand's worth of work. And I was like, oh my God, could that not have come to me?
Yeah,
But I was like, oh my God, that's incredible.
like
So I asked who the businesses were because I was like, oh, I wonder if I know them. And she said, oh, and she said she loves your podcast, loves how down to earth and relatable you are, blah, blah, blah. So I asked who it was, and they sent me the business across. I've got no idea. Like they're miles away. So I'm from the south. You can tell from my accent, but I'm based in Liverpool. She lives somewhere completely different from both of those places, and I literally have no idea who this woman is. Nor does she follow me on social media. But she listens to the podcast enough to get in contact with somebody that I've interviewed and say that, oh, I really love the podcast. And so much with because I think with the podcast, it's harder than social media in some ways because literally you're only looking at numbers, aren't you, to sort of see how it's done. And unless you get those messages from people, which most people won't send you a message, not in a bad way, but it's just because I listen to loads of podcasts and I don't message a person to go, oh, this was brilliant, or share every one. So yeah, I think, and like I said, I did put it on my stories this morning as a bit of felt like I was giving my own TED talk. Keep going, everybody. But it's true, isn't it? Like you have to sort of just keep showing up, keep going, and know that it is getting you somewhere.
yeah. You just keep chipping away, don't you? I get messages from people like friends saying, just keep going, you're doing amazing, and I'm like, it's crap. The podcast is it's rubbish. I'm so shit. I say every 2 minutes. My social media is crap and stuff like that. And like, no, it's brilliant. Keep going, keep going. I'm like, yeah, well, you have to say that you're my friend, but you just keep chipping away.
It's just a roller coaster, isn't it? Of like, I'm not joking when I say. So we spoke about Sue's earlier, and I'm coming off the back of sort of a bit of a rubbish couple of months personally, and I messaged Sue's a few weeks ago, and I was like, I hate everything. I think I'm going to throw my business in the bin. I hate the podcast. It's getting nowhere. It's too much work. And I don't. I love my podcast. But literally, I went off on a whole thing to it. I was like, I hate it all. Like, I just... because, like, it's exhausting, isn't it? Like, it is exhausting showing up, especially when you can't see the results. And then I have a day like today where I've got these 2 messages and I'm like, oh my God, I am on fire. I'm like the next Alan Sugar. It's like... so you just have to... like balance it out, and it's poor Sue's and a couple of our other friends that often get my absolute meltdown, throw my whole business in the bin rants, and then the next day I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm fine again now. Like,
Yeah. At least you message them back saying you're fine again now. I don't bother with my friends. Just like I'm raising everything to the ground. I'm getting a job. That's it. I'm out. And then like 2 months later, they're like, I thought you were getting a job. I'm like, no, I've just got the most views on my podcast ever. I've just had 20,000 views on Facebook on my
I'm
personal
smashing
page.
life.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
smashing life. Look at me.
there is no bigger motivator for me than the thought of having to get a job. Sometimes I think it would be easier, but I've been doing this for 6 years now. I think I've made myself unemployable because I just having to ask for a day off, and I couldn't do it. It's like my biggest motivator to be like, no, whatever's happening, this is
Yeah,
better than the alternative.
I think I think I spoke with this with G on my last show, but that was a couple of weeks ago, so I might have forgotten. But I can think of like 3 reasons to get a job, and I can think of a couple of hundred not to.
Exactly. Although equally, I mean, it's about the person, isn't it? My husband, like, so I say that my husband's employed, and he was like, I can't imagine anything worse than running my own business and having to motivate myself. So like both are hard and both have pros and cons. But yeah, for me, it is like 200 reasons I don't want to be employed, and about 3, but maybe 1. That it's just like, oh, I could just go and sit there, but I'd soon hate it. So.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I tried the whole climb the semi-corporate ladder, and I kind of realized that that wasn't going to work because like there was only so far you could go, and it was a relatively small company. And then I thought, I don't really want to climb the ladder and wear shirts and trousers all the time. I'd rather like be a cool dude, like and grow a beard and wear t-shirts and stuff. So I moved closer to where I lived and I moved jobs thinking it was going to be like more hipster, and it wasn't. I absolutely hated the job I moved to. And I was like, okay, so this job, you're not going to try and climb the ladder because there was no ladder. It was a small company, literally sat next to the MD most of the day. And it was like, what do you do? What do we do then? I was like, okay, just do the work, go home, forget about it, get paid. I was like, that's me. It didn't happen like that. It's like you find
I
yourself like, oh no, I didn't do that. I'll quickly do it at home.
exactly. I like what you said as well about that. I always love that. Like I turn up on the school run looking like, well, because I have pretty much just dragged myself out of bed, and they honestly must think I'm some kind of layabout mum. And it's like I'm actually a very successful business owner. It's just I happen to also be able to look like this. And
They always are though. The secret millionaires and all that. They always just have like two sets of clothes that they wear. And usually, like if it's a man, he's got like a rugby top with Ralph with Polo written up. Ralph, was it Ralph Lauren Polo or something? And I don't know. I've not got any. But and then a pair of jeans, and that's what they
yeah,
wander around in. And then
yeah,
you see the
or a
people
black
with
turtleneck.
the three-piece suits.
Yeah.
Like, look at me, and you're like, yeah, no, it's okay. We know what you do for a living.
Although I say all of this, and I'm very aware, my husband's in a very corporate job, and he is currently sat, which I was telling you before, in shorts,
Yeah,
a Dragon Ball t-shirt, and a beanie hat. So, it's,
it's the joys of working from home, right?
yeah,
As long as he's got no Zoom calls or anything.
just take the hat off.
Yeah, just take the hat off. Put one of those fake shirts on where he kind of puts his arms in it, kind of rolls around the back in a tie, like the president of the United States in one of those films. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what it was, but they kind of had like this suit that he kind of forced himself into and then sat down.
So,
I can't remember what that was. I'll have to find it. Um, right, I think we should probably get on with a bit of the show structure.
he said that would help. Sorry,
Um,
I'm off on a tangent and a rant
no,
and a
no,
soapbox.
it was me. I said something that's it was Instagram. That's what sent us down that rabbit hole. Okay, so how long have you been doing self-employedness?
So I have been self-employed for about 5.5 years. It's 6 years in October. So yeah, I'm quite
Pretty
chuffed with
good
that.
going. So when you were younger, then was self-employment your aim?
No, it absolutely wasn't. I talk about this quite a lot now because actually, both my mum and my dad were self-employed whilst I was growing up, and technically business owners, but I never saw it like that. So it was never my aim, and actually, like I spent 13 years building a career and getting to a certain stage in a career before I threw all that in the bin and went down this route. So yeah, it was never the aim, but when I look back on it now, I think. See, the aim was always freedom. And I think like various different things led to me leaving my employed job, which weren't the best things without bringing down the tone of the podcast. Yeah, so it was a totally fall into it by accident type scenario, basically.
Okay, so did you? So when you were pursuing that corporate role, then was that something you wanted to do from school? Was it kind of you like that was your aim? You were going to go work in corporate. You wanted to go. You finished school. You wanted to get A levels. You went to get a degree. Did you get a degree?
I did get a degree, yes. And that's what started my first career path actually. And I worked in small charities, so I was never particularly corporate. Like that's never been me. But basically, I went to university, and my first job out of university, I got elected as a student officer to my student union. So I was elected as vice president. Welfare and Education, and then president, and they were full-time paid. They were elected roles, but full-time paid roles. And then basically I went into staff roles within student unions, and I did a lot of campaigning, engagement, advocacy. But yeah, it also, I don't think so when I go back to what I actually, the very first job I ever wanted was to be a racing car driving mountain climber. Um, that did not happen. And then I look back at the things I kind of wanted to do, and I wanted to be a vet, which I think is fairly standard when you're younger, because it's like, oh, out of animals, and then you realise that they die a lot of the time as well. It's probably quite traumatic. And not only that, you have to be very, very clever to be able to become a vet. And then I wanted to be, what I went to university wanting to be was a journalist, because I loved writing. I loved being creative. I don't think I necessarily saw it as creative, but I loved writing. I loved being creative. And I studied media and cultural studies with film, radio and television. And I think I've only ever really followed, like, I've never overly known what I want to do the other side of it, but it makes me happy and I love it. So let's see where it goes. And basically going to university led me, I'd never been very political, but it led me into the elected officers role, which led me into the sort of campaign and engagement route. So things, I think probably my whole life have kind of happened, not by accident, obviously, like, you know, I'm not an idiot. Like, I can do things, I'm quite clever, but they haven't been planned. And basically, when I went into staff role, I did it for about 9-10 years. And then I had my children. And I just realised how incredibly inflexible the world was, even in flexible organisations, for working parents, especially working mums. And when I left that job, like I said, it was for a lot of quite dark reasons, actually. Like, I wasn't in a great place. We'd had a lot of stuff go on. But even then, I wasn't planning to start my own business. I basically had a bit of a breakdown and I was taking a break. And yeah, like I said, even when I set up my business, it started off with helping someone out with doing something, and then her saying, oh, you do know, like, you could do this as a job. So it's all sort of happened by accident. It was never some grand plan of like, I want to be this amazing, successful business owner. It's been chasing the life I want, I guess. And at the point my business started, it was like, right, well, I'm not ready to go back into employment for various different reasons. And my children were really small then, but I do need to do something to top up our bills and be able to cover all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just kind of, yeah, like I said, it's never really been planned, but it's all worked out very nicely.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a bit weird because I'm not into the whole woo-woo thing, but at the same time, I do believe that things do happen to us for a reason. Like, you know, when we're faced with a crossroads in our lives, you know, and we take a particular route, I think later on, it's like that what was that film, Slumdog Millionaire?
Yeah.
A bit like that, you know, everything happens for a reason, as it were. And you kind of, and then you find yourself sat in this situation, and like you're like, oh, okay. So yeah, I love that story. Obviously, I don't love the fact that you had dark times and things like that with your career and things. But you look like you've obviously it's provided you with the requirements that you need. You provided you with what you required to get to where you are now, a
Yeah,
successful
and I think
businesswoman.
it's also, like, I don't want to go down one of those real wanky Insta-worthy moments of like, the dark times made me what I am today. But actually, like, that taught me quite a lot about what I did and didn't want.
Yeah.
And I'd been chasing this career, which at the point that I left my job, I was so outwardly successful. Like, I had a pretty senior career that was well paid, had a lovely house, had a lovely family, but I was so bloody miserable. And it was like, yeah, I think sometimes it's like, do you know what? I think when I look back, I've always sort of, my main goal, and again, it sounds very knobby, but has been to be happy. And if I'm not happy, then what's the point? And, I spoke earlier about possibly changing the direction of my business a little bit, or shifting the focus of it. And that's kind of come from a place of not being unhappy, but going, right, what really lights me up and what is the stuff I really enjoy? How can I do more of that? And I think that's what I love about, which I think is the biggest reason I could never go back to employment, the freedom that you've got in a business to be able to go, nope, not doing that anymore. I'm going to try and do this thing instead. And if that doesn't work, it's like, oh, didn't work. I'll go back to doing this thing, which you just can't do sort of in a job. So yeah, and again, always been driven by, when I look back at all the various different things I wanted to do and routes I went down. At one point, like, my careers advisor in school, well, actually, that's very grand. It wasn't a careers advisor. I think it was a teacher that had a career meeting with me. I basically went to college to do law. Why I did law is absolutely beyond me, because, well, I failed the AS level, I think. Like, it was never my thing. But basically, that came from them having a chat with me and going, oh, she's quite opinionated, doesn't like things being unfair and that kind of thing, do law. But like I look now at what I do, and then I also did media studies because I love like film and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, actually, even now in my business, like I'm driven by helping people in situations that I deem like unfair, being creative with what I do. So they've all been really random what I've wanted to do, but they've all kind of come down to, I want to make a difference and I want to be creative. So I think,
You know what the job title is for that? Podcast host.
which, and also loves talking and loves having opinions. So what's better than a podcast?
Yeah, I'll cut you off there because you mentioned going to do A levels and law, and so Richard Hiron, guest on the show, friend of mine, the Hironator, and a regular listener of the show. He has a theory that people, because when I was younger, I wanted to be a solicitor, but I realised after during A levels, which as I told you before we started the show, I failed my A levels because I was obsessed with Dragon Ball GT, and I was too busy watching that and not doing my coursework and stuff, or preparing for exams. But my route was I was going to go and be a lawyer, and then. And now like obviously many years later, my primary client is a solicitor's firm. And Richard is a solicitor, and so he's got this theory. I just surround myself with people who are interested in the law, wanted to be a lawyer, or are a lawyer, and so you've just filled the conspiracy even more.
I'm just confirming that even more
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
Or
that's it.
people, is it people that wanted to do, well, not in your client's case, but people that wanted to do law but failed at it?
Well, I don't know if we had Jules on the show. Did we just post Jules' show a couple of weeks ago? Yeah, Jules was on the show a couple of weeks ago. She wanted to be a lawyer and made some big life decisions because of Ally McBeal, the TV show.
Love that.
Um, yeah, but
I've
that's what
never
that's what
but
yeah, I wanted to do law because of Ally McBeal. I thought it was cool watching them argue in a court case and in the court and all that. And but yeah, obviously not meant to be.
yeah, see, I never watched Ally McBeal, but I think when I look at the other A levels that I did psychology as well and also failed that in the first year and ended up basically my actual A levels were in like media and film and all like and English, because those were the stuff that I was really good at. Whereas I think like law, psychology, and even going back to when I was 10 and wanted to be a vet, all involved like science and being very, and I wasn't interested in all of the detail. I just want to like I said, like I've got a lot of opinions and I like understanding how things work and all of that kind of stuff, but I don't actually want to study biology to know that. So, which is why I never did very well at it. But it does all lead, doesn't it, to you sort of look at that and go, well, that was a waste of time because I failed that. But I think all of it, like I said, I mean, I'm on the very practical side of woo. Like I don't like I'm going to close my eyes and think about a car and it will turn up on my driveway. But I do believe you're in some kind of element of fate of like where you're meant to go.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started on this because there's some CIA documents that were released in 2003 from the 80s, which basically prove like teleportation and manifesting. And I've talked about this on the show before. I don't know if you've read The Secret.
No, but so I've never read The Secret, but I watched the first few minutes of the Netflix thing on The Secret, and it was
Right.
basically someone opening the door and going, "Oh, it's a car." I was like, "Oh no, that's going straight off."
But it's like I have The Secret upstairs, and famously on this podcast, that you get to like page 9 or whatever it is. I've got a screenshot of it on my phone, and it just basically says the secret is you ask for it and it'll come. And I was like, don't need to read the rest of the book.
Give me $1 million. Like it's,
Yeah,
I do genuinely believe in manifesting, but there's like I think it's with the like work behind it. Like I genuinely believe there's power in our brains, but you have to do some work. Like,
oh yeah,
to
yeah,
make it
yeah. Of
happen.
course, you can't be like, yeah, £1 million, £1 million. It's like you manifest it, and then you get 6 clients that if I don't
Yeah.
know, however much to make £1 million. There you go.
And even, like I talk about fate, like obviously I'd hope my fate wasn't, I mean, we went through a lot of mental health struggles with my husband and my breakdown and whatever. I'd like to, I'd rather not have had that. But also I genuinely think all of that has led to like lots of what we went through then is how I set my boundaries now of going, no, I never want to feel like that again. And so I do think there's an element of like, you've got to fail and make mistakes to know like really what you're happy to accept and what you're not happy to accept. Because in my
Yeah.
job, I should have left my job like 2 years earlier. Look, regardless of starting my business, because even when I left, that wasn't the plan. I should have left it 2 years earlier, but I didn't. I waited until the point that it got really horrendous to leave it. So I think, and now that's shown me like I can spot real red flags in myself, and like in my business now to go, no, something needs to change here. What is it that needs to change? So I think there's a lot about going down all that woo, like knowing yourself, and knowing what triggers you and knowing what you want. That's really, really powerful.
Yeah. I think that's the journey of a self-employed business owner, though, isn't it? And it's like, and it's you discover, like people say about, when I was younger, certainly it was get a job, be successful, be a lawyer or a doctor, and make money that way. And then, but if you've got a job, then all of your eggs are in one basket. Like I got made redundant just before Christmas in 2020, I think it was, and it was like, oh, you know. But if now I'm self-employed and I've got, I don't know, what is it, five or six, seven clients, something like that. If one of those, well, actually, one did last week, said, I can't use you anymore at the minute. I'll come back. Don't worry. And I was like, okay, no worries. That's cool.
Yeah,
It's only one client. I've still got six or whatever it is. And obviously, I won't go into the reasons. It is basically economic streamlining. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's for me. It's like, okay, that's fine. We'll just start advertising for another client then.
yeah,
But if otherwise, if you lose your job unexpectedly through redundancy or other reasons, insert reason here, then that's your whole job gone. Your all your bills not being paid. And another thing I realized when I left the employed world was I didn't realize you can literally think of anything and you can monetize it. Like, and there's so many niches down there. It's like if you want to start a bell ringing class for women in their that are aged 55, then you can go and do that and people will come.
yeah, hundred
And
percent.
like an extreme example, I know, and men and women can ring bells. I'm not casting aspersions or anything
Oh,
like that, or stereotyping anything like that. It was just a random example, but you can do that. And I think as we evolve in our business lives, we expand ourselves and we find more, and then we want more. It's like like you started a podcast. I got to the point where I was like, right, yeah, doing client work's fun, and doing my social media and making these pretty posts in Canva's fun. But what if I did something else? How can I speak to other people and share my wisdom, as it were? I was like, boom, podcast. And so I started a podcast. And now I'm like, then from the podcast, I was like, this video thing's all right. What can I do from there? Oh, well, boom, YouTube. And now I'm like sat there like, oh, you see this? I can't because the camera's on it. But it's like, oh, you see the Yolanzi MT73? Very good. Go and buy one from Amazon, and I'll get a little bit of money. And I'm like, monetized, boom. And
monetize.
you're like, this is so weird, Like 5 years ago, I was sat at a desk in a motorbike shop, going, "Hello, welcome. Can I have your keys, please? Sign the piece of paper." And now I'm like sat here talking to you, half the country away, about how you can monetize whatever you want.
Yeah, and it's so funny you say about bell ringing because that's exactly the direction I'm looking to shift my business into. No, it's
Oh,
not.
okay. Oh, right.
I know,
Um,
but you're right. Like you can literally do, like you can do anything, and you can also decide that. I mean, I'm saying this like it's really easy. Obviously, you've got to work and it's hard work
yeah,
and
yeah,
whatever. But you can decide. I don't know that you want to go on this amazing holiday and go right. Actually, I'm going to see if I can sell. Like, so I offer like VIP days, for example, which I don't really promote because it's not the core bit of my business. But you could go, right, do you know what? Actually, I'll put a lot of energy into promoting that, could earn myself a bit of money. And like you can choose how much you earn, can't you? Which you can't do in a
yeah,
job. And it is hard and you will lose clients and things like that. And it naturally happens. But I think you're right. It's no like less safe than being in a job but you're if anything it's safer because you're more in control of it. And I sometimes
yeah.
think like I sit here and think how cool is it that like I've been doing this for 6 years, I've actually convinced people to give me money to help them do the thing they need help with. And obviously that's because, you know, like I'm good at what I do and all of that kind of stuff. But I think that's like so cool that like that business isn't coming from anywhere but us and the work that we put out. And I just think like, as we don't give ourselves enough credit for the fact that actually like, you know, we've got a business during really difficult economic times, but all of that has come from us putting ourselves out there and going, hey, look at me, I can help you with that.
Yeah, it is weird. But and another thing on the old employment thing, it's like this doesn't apply to everyone. It's like don't come for me, but if you do a really good job at work, your reward is more work. If you're self-employed and you do a really good job and you work really hard and work extra hours, your reward is more money.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm going to title this show "Reasons Not to Get a Job."
And do you know what? Caveat, you're right, it's total personal. Like I said earlier, my husband's like, not in a million years would I want to run a business.
Yeah.
But I think like, you know, we go back to talking about the careers advisors. I think the reason, and I don't know what it's like in schools now, but is because like even now, how many people in school and college will be being told, what about setting up your own business? What about like pursuing your own employment? And I think we still look at all those traditional, you think we were told to be like lawyers or doctors, and it was because they were the obvious, you know, like I was talking earlier about defining success on your own terms, but as a society, we still deem success as these particular set of jobs and how much you earn and what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's because we don't, you know, I joked about it wasn't a careers advisor I had, it was definitely an add-on to a teacher's day, but we haven't got, like, we're just not teaching kids that. And I think it's happening more now. But yeah, like, I don't think I hope it becomes like a viable option. And that's one of the things I really hope I show my kids. And I look back now and realise my mum and dad showed me without me realising it at the time, was like, you know, you can go off to university, you can get a job, be a doctor, that would be amazing if that's what you want to do. But also, you can go off and start a bell ringing class if you want to and have a lovely little time.
Yeah. Aimed at 55-year-old women.
Yeah.
Who are specifically from Swansea in Wales.
Very niche. I like it. People tell you to niche, don't they? And that's
yeah.
niche.
Yeah, I'm going to do the questions. Don't we? We won't go down the niching rabbit hole.
Okay.
Because there's arguments for and arguments against, and then we'll be here for ages. And I'm like, oh. So, niching on the episode 2 of Becci. Right, let's do the questions. Question number 1. I think you're similar age to me, but I don't want to offend you in case you're not. But what's been your favourite age so far?
See, now I want to know how old you are in case you are offending me. How old are you?
If you've not listened to previous episodes of the podcast where I blatantly say how old I am.
Did I miss the one that was all about your? Yeah, no, sorry. I have
you know
listened to
someone.
previous episodes of podcasts. I told you about
that. No, you clearly listened to the wrong ones. I am 39. I will be 40 this year. Ooh.
Oh yeah, no, you're definitely my friend. So, I'm a little bit older than you, just a little bit.
Okay. So
my favourite age, I feel like I should say an age during the time that I've had my children, but I'm not going to. So I reckon my favourite age was probably like 26, 27 maybe. Because I was living my best life. Like, I was living in the heart of Manchester with 2 of my best friends. I went travelling in America, and I was kind of like old enough to be on decent money that I could afford, like, kind of lifestyle I wanted. But also young enough to be stupid and make, well, I'm still that age to be fair, but be stupid and make mistakes. And yeah, it was just a boss year, to be honest. It was, like I said, I went travelling in America, went out with my friends all the time. So I'd say 26, 27. But I'm very aware, having said that I met my husband at 28, or my now husband at 28. So if he's listening to this, my favourite age was 28.
I'll do like a cut. So if you give me your IP address, I'll launch it's 28 when I met my husband to you. Yeah. And then the rest of the people know it's 26 just before you met your husband.
I feel like I basically said my favourite age was the year before I met my husband.
Manchester in late 90s, early 2000s, Affleck's Palace. Did you used to go there?
I was going to say, so what it would have been the year 2010 to 2012, I was living in
Oh
Manchester.
yes, yes.
I was
Oh,
going to
I
say,
don't know if it had gone then by then. You would have been too
no,
old for Apex
Apex
by then.
Palace was there. I don't think we went there a lot. So I lived in the heart of the Northern Quarter, which was incredible. And we lived just around the corner from where they did all the Gatecrasher nights. And it was brilliant because we could walk there and walk back. We
Mm.
went out in the Northern Quarter a lot. And yeah, it was just lovely. Like I'd been living in London I think that was another reason it was probably my favourite age. I'd been living in London just before that, and London was brilliant, but it was so expensive that like I literally didn't have a pot to be in by the time I'd
Mm.
paid out bills and whatever. And I then moved to Manchester around that age, and I was like, oh my god, I'm loaded because I was living in the Northern Quarter for like half the price of what I'd been paying in London. Probably should have saved some of that, but I didn't. I travelled America and went out all the time. So yeah,
Sounds like a
that was
good
a
year.
brilliant age. And then I would say the next day when my children were, I was never made for babies. Like I loved them as babies. Very, very boring. My next favourite age would have probably been about 35 because my kids were like 3, 4 and they were hilarious. And yeah, it was all brilliant. But yeah, not as good as constantly going out in Manchester and being able to sleep. So
Great answers there, like those. Question number 2. What is your favorite quote? This could be a movie quote, a meme, or a motivational quote, or any other quote you can think of.
my favourite quote is probably "What if I fall? Oh my darling, but what if you fly?"
It's a good one.
Because that was the first ever post I put on my business page was that quote, and it basically came from a point of which is horrendous as a social media marketer, but I was a year and a half into business before I set up my own social media pages, and it's basically because I'd been very blessed in that I'd got clients I was doing social media management at that point. I was at capacity with clients, but basically I did some life coaching around that time, and we dug into why I wasn't having a social media page. I had all the excuses, but basically I was worried about if I had something out there, I had something that could fail, and then basically we dug into that a bit deeper like they do, and I wasn't afraid of failing. I was afraid of what other people would say about that failure, especially because I'd struggled with stuff around my
Mm.
job. And yeah, I posted that quote, and I now tell myself that all the time because instead of thinking of the worst case scenario, why don't you think of all of the brilliant things that could happen?
Mm.
And it helps me reframe failure quite a lot as well. Of like, actually, like again, about to go very insta wanky quote type thing. But the biggest failure that you can do is not trying, and you don't know what can come by putting yourself out there. So yeah, what if I fall? Oh my darling, but what if you fly? Is something I like to live by.
Yeah, I love that. My first Instagram quote that I put on a post on my Instagram page when I started all those years. What is it? Oh my God, it's like 5 years ago now. But it was the first proper one was you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yes, I love that as well. And that's something like I've definitely had to come to terms with because I like to do everything. So
Yeah. Where are we? Question number 3. Ooh, question number 3. Google Suite or Microsoft 365?
see, I have both of these. I don't know. I have both of these, but I'd probably say Google Suite. I think,
Okay.
oh, I don't know. I'd probably say Google Suite because it does help me with lots of things. But I also couldn't live without Microsoft 365. So yeah, I'm
I'll
going to go
allow
Google
it.
Suite. I'm going to go Google Suite.
Yeah, as people, as watchers of the show, those who've seen it before, they will know I use both.
Yes. Yeah. Best people do. There you go.
Question number 4. What app can you not live without?
What app could I not live without? I would probably say Asana because I literally organize my whole life in it, like all my business stuff, but also my personal life. And I people often think that I'm very, very organized. I'm not. Like I'm the most chaotic person in the world, but it's basically because it's all organized through Asana.
Mm.
And so like if I lost that, like it would literally be like losing a limb.
I used to use Asana. I used to like when you complete a task, you get the little narwhal or the little unicorn, be like, ta-da!
Yeah, which I'm there for. I like that kind of reinforcement.
Yeah, I mean, I like, it's like you've done a task, well done.
Yeah,
Pat on the back.
yeah.
You don't get that with Moxie. But if they're listening, Jeff, sort it out.
See, I had a look at Moxie, but that, from what I understood of it, because it was quite early on, that was more CRM type stuff. Whereas
Mm.
I use Asana for a lot of the project management stuff, and I organize all my socials in there. I've got systems set up in there, and it just makes everything so much simpler. And like I said, it makes me not lose the plot, like with the mental overload and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had a sauna for a time. No, I've done that bit, haven't I? Yeah, I did because of the narwhal thing.
Yeah,
What am I
yeah.
talking about? I clearly need a sauna back so that don't lose what I'm up to where I'm saying it. Yeah, I swapped to Moxie, even though it is more of a CRM because you can do project management and time tracking in there.
Oh.
Um, but I'm a bit torn. I must be honest. I was looking at Notion the other day, thinking I could go back to that. Asana didn't tick all of my boxes. Moxie's not ticking all of my boxes for the price tag. Yeah, I'm a bit stuck at the minute, I must admit. I did do one in between. I did toggle plan in between to go with toggle track. And that was okay because it was kind of like a calendar. And it was nice. And you could assign time to it. So at the top, it said how many hours you had left to book out.
Oh, nice.
Um, but
Well,
it wasn't quite as aesthetically pleasing.
yeah, and I think that, so I was using Trello to start with, which I loved,
Mm.
and I loved how visual it was. And it was actually, who I think we both know as well, the lovely Debs, who got me onto Asana. So I
Depths of
worked,
Asana.
I worked with Debs for quite a while. She was my OBM for about a year.
Oh, yeah.
And she got me onto Asana, and basically, like, she was very patient with me. It took her quite a while to be like, because I was like, no, it's all on Trello. I don't want all that stress. But one of her biggest selling points was it helps you scale, and it helps you, like, the workflows and the systems are just way more sophisticated. And actually, I've got to say, like, when I moved over to it, I ran with it, and like I said, literally my whole life is in there now. And it
Mm.
just makes everything so much simpler. I've even got my, reluctantly on his part, but my husband's on my Asana so that he can see different stuff going on with the kids and like, it's
Mm.
just like a one-stop place. And actually, I would probably say, I think it does tick all the, for what I need, it does tick all the boxes.
Mm.
Whereas not many of the other systems did. I mean, again, not on commission for Asana, as I am not on for Instagram. And it is down to personal preference. But I remember Debs as well saying that apparently, I don't know how true this is, but Asana had set up based on helping people and the way people with ADHD work better. And I mean, I'm not diagnosed with ADHD, but I do have a strong suspicion that I might have it. I probably won't go down the diagnosis route. So I don't think I've ever actually said that publicly before. I said to my husband basically about a while ago, I think I might have ADHD. And he looked at me and was like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Like, and he reeled off. So I think whether it's ADHD or something else, I don't know. But the way my brain works, Asana is brilliant for it. And I do a lot of that in my membership in terms of social, is teaching people how to set up, like, that's a big part of me reducing my overwhelm, is
Mm.
having the right systems in place so that I can keep some kind of order to my chaotically organized life.
Interestingly, Debs is the one that got me onto with Moxie.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know she
Um,
started to look at that, hadn't she?
yeah, she looked at it, said how cool it looked, and then she said about going for everyone following Charlotte. Then I had a quick look at it, was like, yeah, it's okay. And then Debs was like, they've got an 80s party theme. I was like, I'm in.
See, I like it. I like the selling points on the. I just want a little narwhal to go across my screen and tell me I'm brilliant. So 80s vibe, and you're there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as good as it used to be. The 80s party theme was really, really good, and then they've changed it all around and stuff. And I don't know, can't decide. I'm a bit stuck. I did have a look at Notion the other day because I try and use that for my creator life, podcasting, YouTube, etc. And I just I just make them so complicated. But I'm very much like you. Everyone thinks I'm really organized for what I do in my day job. Surprisingly, still not a full-time podcast host. Um,
You
but
will be after this episode. It's fine.
after this episode, yeah, this is it. Boom! I said
Yeah.
that on the last episode that got published on Monday, though.
Oh,
But it's only just been published, so we've got to give it a few days, right?
yes.
Um, But yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, you do, you're a freelance administrator or a VA or whatever. You must be super organized." I'm like, if you want to think that, that's fine. I was like, it is organized in my head and
Well,
on
whatever
Moxie, of
way you do
course.
it, if it works, it works. And if you're giving off the impression, then
It's not giving off the impression. I get stuff done. That's what I do.
exactly.
Um, in my own way. Right. Question number 5. How many unread emails do you have on your phone right now?
I think I have 3 unread emails on my phone. I am very much an inbox zero person because it gives me anxiety to have like notifications, and I have various different things set up. Like I've got a focus set up on my iPhone to manage like boundaries around that with work. The 3 unread emails are in my personal inbox, and they're all things I have to do for my kids, which is very distressing. And I want to get rid of those notifications. But yes, I've got 3 at the moment. I will
That's
probably
pretty
come off
good
here.
going.
Yeah, I need to come off here, book an eye test for my daughter, and it will go down to 2. So my husband is a total opposite of that, and he has like 7,000 unread emails, and I can't cope with how he lives his life. Like, it's just, but I'm very much the opposite of that.
Okay, questions done. So we'll talk briefly about the future, which you've already started to talk about earlier. Then we'll tell everyone where they can find you, and then we'll give it a little, that W word. So, what aspirations have you got for the future then, Becky?
I think in terms, I've literally just been setting. So my business goals go April to April. I changed that. I did it last year for the first time, and it was so much better. So I've literally just set my goals again, and a lot of it for me is about, like I said, I'm looking at maybe shifting the focus of the business into more to do with not just helping women simplify social media and take away the overwhelm from that, but just in life and business in general. And I'm very, like I said, I'm really big on trying to help more women redefine what success means to them. So I want to look at how I can do that more in my business or through. So it might be that the direction of the podcast changes a little bit. So I'd love to do some of that. And other than that, I just want to. A lot of the theme of what we've been speaking about is just keep doing the things that make me happy. Listening to myself when, like, I might want to change things and all that kind of stuff, and just growing the business. Like, I really want to grow the podcast. I don't particularly have aspirations to monetize. I mean, I'd love to monetize it because if people want to give me money for anything, I'd love that. But that's not really what drives me with that. But I would like it to be, obviously, as you know, it takes a lot of time and all that kind of stuff. It would be nice if that grew to a point where, I might be able to monetize it a little bit. But I just think, yeah, it's mostly about just being happy and staying self-employed. Like I think that's a really big sign of success as well, that we don't give ourselves enough credit for. So yeah, doing more of what lights me up, helping more people with the things that I know I'm really good at, and growing the podcast would be amazing, I think.
I love all those. So, where can people find the podcast then? Tell us what the podcast's about now.
So the podcast, well, to be fair, the podcast is a little bit about that now anyway. The podcast is called
Mm.
Show Up and Be Heard, and they are a mix of solo episodes and interviews with other women-owned businesses. And basically, the solo episodes at the moment are bite-sized, simple, actionable social media tips and advice of how you can simplify your socials, how things work, all that kind of stuff. And then the interviews with women are about normalizing the highs and lows of being a business owner, making business life less lonely, and again, providing actionable tips. We actually had an episode on like organization and time management, all that kind of stuff, where we were talking a lot about Moxie actually. But they can also go into so we've had ones talking about imposter syndrome. I had one with Sue's talking about showing up and how we show up in our businesses. But I think in terms of how it might, like some of the solo episodes that I've started to do recently have been more about my like challenging the noise and the BS that's out there. So I've done an episode recently on why I hate the word lucky and why it triggers me. Have done episodes around like how I run my business outside of social media. So maybe shifting more into, and just how to live like a simpler, happier life. And define success on our own terms and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's still going to be a mix of solo episodes. It's still going to have social media in there. That, like, I love social media, and I get a lot of good feedback about how helpful the tips are. But maybe moving it slightly more into like a bit like this, like conversations and listening to other business owners and how they do things, and hopefully inspiring people with that. So yeah, Show Up and Be Heard. It's on all the main Like it's on Apple and Spotify and YouTube, although I don't have videos yet. And then all of the other random places that you can get podcasts as well. So yeah, if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please go and listen to it.
Awesome stuff. I will put that in the show notes. Video is interesting. Once you start down the video rabbit hole, it's a bit like, ooh, yeah. I mean, when I started my first episode, my first recording, you use Riverside as well to record your podcast. But I used to use my laptop camera, or I did for my first one, and my laptop is like a 3-year-old Asus ZenBook, and it's because it's so tiny, like laptop wise, it's not about the size, it's about performance. But it's quite small, and so the camera is like really grainy. So I'm like looking at myself in my camera, like, yeah, that looks all right. And my first guest rocks up with an iMac lens, and I was like, they are crystal clear, and I'm like really grainy. So I was like, right. So I was like, external webcam, 4K. Like, boom, we're in 4K now. And then I got to Christmas and I did a Christmas special and I recorded one angle on my camera, on my computer. No, sorry, on the webcam. And I recorded another angle to the side of me, this way, um, on my phone. And the phone was like even more crystal clear, and it focused and it had a blurry background, which the webcam wouldn't do. And I was like, oh my god. And then every time I looked at any video footage that had been recorded on the webcam, the external one, I was like, no. So now we're on a 4K Insta 360 RS.
Wow, check you out.
And
And
I
also,
put
can we recognize me for a second that how hard I had to try just then to not laugh at the innuendo joke because recording a podcast, I know how annoying it is when someone laughs over you speaking. Because
You did well.
so if you are watching the video of this, I was sat there the whole time, like just
It's
because I have
okay.
a
I would have used the auto mute thing, so it would have muted the
Ah,
laugh.
yeah, of course, of course. See,
Yes.
I think I'm missing a trick really by not doing the videos because I do record all my episodes, but I do all my podcast myself,
Mm.
and where possible, I do minimal editing, and I record the intro separately and whatever, and it just involves more to do it with video. But I do think I need to move into that because I have got the videos, like I'm recording the video, and now on
Yeah.
Spotify it comes up as a video as well, doesn't it? So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I do the video so that I've got all the social media clips. So I'm definitely missing a trick with it. But I don't have all the fancy equipment yet. So,
So aspirations to have. Yeah. Look at a Sony ZV-1, I think it is.
yeah.
I don't know. You make your own decisions on the video cameras, but you can externally use your webcam on your computer. You can just plug your phone in, or you can log in via the Riverside app on your phone, and then that will use your 4K. Well, presuming that you've got like a decent phone,
Yeah.
and it's got a decent camera on, you can use that.
Oh, well, I am
Um,
literally like the Apple Queen. So it's a MacBook, iPhone, all that. So they've got pretty decent cameras on
hmm,
them, which is why, other
yeah, yeah,
than for, because you said earlier, didn't you, about Google Suite or Microsoft 365? And before we started recording, you were like, well, maybe you use Apple. That's actually the one thing I don't use it for.
hmm,
But yeah, I'm like, again, not sponsored by Apple.
yeah.
I wish I was. But yeah, so I think I'm probably missing the trick with that. I probably need to give it a go.
Heard it here first on the Radventures podcast, amongst other things. Video of the Be Heard social podcast coming soon.
Yeah, all credit to you.
Yeah, I'll send you an invoice every year, every month. Cool. So tell everyone where they can find you, Becky.
So the best place to find me is on Instagram. I am at Be Heard Socials, or I am over on LinkedIn. I just take about a week to reply to you. So you can find me at Becci McEvoy over on LinkedIn as well. It is one of my goals for next year to embrace it and to use it more. But like I said, I am a bit slow on the responses. So the best place is definitely Instagram. And like I said, I'd love you to go check out the podcast as well.
No problem. I will put all that in the show notes. To be fair, my goal for the last 4 years has been more active on LinkedIn, and it's still not working.
Yeah, maybe I should just accept that I'm not here for LinkedIn, but give it
Yeah,
one more
I
go.
don't know. I don't know. One more go. Yeah, it does seem to be a changing environment, and I know people that love it. And I've been like, oh, it's too corporate colony, and they're like, no, I hang out with all the cool kids, and I'm like, okay, but you're not hanging around with the cool kids on Instagram, though, are you? So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think with LinkedIn, I just need to find a way to approach it like I do with Instagram, and whether that's through like having more structure to it, because I am like, my friends will joke that I've got like all look a squirrel syndrome, and so I have to be really strict with Instagram and how I use it, of going down rabbit holes. I was gonna go down a whole squirrel thing, so that's exactly the way my brain works. And with LinkedIn, that's what I do. Like I fall down a rabbit hole on it because I haven't found a way to approach it in a way that works for my brain. So maybe that's got to be the first part of my goal next year, is to try and suss that out a bit. But yeah, I like,
Yeah.
loads of my friends love it, and loads of people are really successful on it. I just can't get to grips with it. And also, I go on there and there's all these posts of like, I don't know, like it's this weird abstract story, and then all of a sudden, the business lesson I learned from this was, and no, I'm not here for that.
Yeah, it's like well, I joked about this before on the show. It's like, I stood in the shower this morning washing myself, and it made me think, in business we should always clean up after ourselves. And I'm like,
I mean, I like it. I admire their creativity with some of the stuff, but yeah, I look at that and I'm like, no. And I know this happens on Instagram as well, but LinkedIn for me, it's way worse. Like just the people sliding into your DMs trying to sell you something,
oh,
and I just can't cope with it. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna jump on that soapbox again, because I've had that one before, of like the friend request, and you look at them and you're like, oh, they look okay. I don't think they're going to sell to me. Exactly 48 hours on the dot. Like,
yeah,
oh, hey, you look like you could use some insert service here. I'm like, no, block, delete,
yeah.
goodbye. Thanks for the follow.
Yeah, it's that, and I mean, we've managed to avoid, which I have very strong opinions on the niche thing as well. I imagine we have similar opinions. We managed to avoid that, so we could avoid this. But this is my all look a squirrel syndrome of like tangents, and all of a sudden I'm talking about something completely different. But yeah, LinkedIn
Yeah,
I feel like is the worst for that. I know it happens on Instagram, but it doesn't seem to happen anywhere near as much. So
yeah. We'll have that. We'll have episode 2. If you're happy to come back, we'll have episode 2 with LinkedIn and niches.
yes, I'm there for it, 100%.
As the podcast has evolved, I mean, it started off with people's journeys, and sometimes, and then sometimes we hear about people's journeys still, but then we go off on these. It's kind of heading into more kind of, like subjects. So, like, we talk about Instagram and we talk about other stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's a weird place, but obviously there's only so many people you can talk to about their journey. But then if people want to come back, people are very welcome to. But we can't obviously do their journey again, because we know that from episode
Well, you
1.
know that. No, 100%. I would love that. And I'm the same with my podcast, actually, is like I've moved more into, it used to be very, I don't know, like a website person would come up on and tell you, how to DIY your website, which is very interesting, very useful, but also to an extent quite dull for conversation. Like you can do that in different ways. Or there's only so many times you can talk about things. And actually, I've started to say to guests, like, what's your soapbox rant? Because I'd love to just have a chat about like something in business. I did say to you when we booked in this podcast, I was like, I'm so sorry, my podcast is for women-owned businesses, but maybe we need to do an Instagram live
Oh yeah,
about
I like it. Oh
rants.
yeah, no. Well, ooh, Instagram
Oh.
live, when we're live. I know I like live. It's recording I struggle with, because when you're live, you know not to say something stupid, don't you?
Well, do you?
Um, kind of. Like, but I mean, the beauty of it being recorded is you can kind of back it up, back it up. Hang on a second, I've gone down the wrong path. Let me go on a different one.
At least with a live, you can scrap it at the end if you don't want to share it again. But
I have
I
every
like the fact that you're like,
yeah.
maybe we'd get us both cancelled. If
Yeah, definitely get us both cancelled. But what I like about lives is, like, I had this idea for lives, and I won't keep you too much longer. We will wrap up in a second. But it's like, I had this idea: go live, tell everyone you're going live, and then you wait for people, watchers, to come in, and then it's like roulette. You're like, right, who's coming in? And then you have a random conversation with, you invite one of the guests or
yeah,
one of the watchers to come in, and then you have a random conversation, or perhaps you have like a format of like 3 questions, random, who's coming into the live, boom, 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 you're in, answer your 3 questions. But it didn't kind of take off. I don't think I've got like quite the following for it, but maybe
no,
you have. You can
it's
have that one.
tap into that. I'm not sure I have or not, but we could try it.
Yeah.
I love an Instagram live. That's actually where my podcast came from. I used to do a Women Own Wednesday, and basically they got more into where they were like an hour-ish long, and we were talking about issues. And I was like, I've basically got a podcast, but it's just, but I can't get it out to as many places because it's just on Instagram. But so I've then obviously launched my podcast and stopped doing the lives, but I'd actually like to start doing them again because I do like it. Maybe on the day this comes out, we can go live and talk about LinkedIn and niches, and then also say, by the way, the podcast episode that's going to launch into Richard earning a ton of money is it's gone out live today.
Monday. It'll be Monday. 20, 30. In about seven or 8 weeks, I think.
Yeah, so I don't work Mondays at the moment, but for you, I will happily come on and do an Instagram live.
Well, maybe we'll do the Instagram live on the Friday or something,
Yes.
and then we could be like, episode is out on Monday, because
Yeah.
Mondays I
Yeah,
am
that's good.
usually otherwise engaged.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be
we'll
good.
we'll work it out. We'll work it out. Anyway, right? We told everyone
Realise
where
we're
you.
just having a chat now.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, no, we've got to stop the recording. No. Thanks for coming on, Becky. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Insert bit about affiliate links, Patreon supporters, all that jazz. You've heard it all before from me. If you got this far, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Becky for coming on. I'll catch you next week with another episode. In the interim, peace out. Thanks for joining us on Radventures. Don't forget to subscribe via your favourite platform. Always happy to chat, so hit me up in the DMs, and I'll see you on the next Radventure.